Has Marcus... go again. Clap again. If the RFL don't give Marcus Griffiths a 2-match ban for his cut and blow dry on Friday night, then the game's gone.
Ben Thaler has had a few banquet meal deals from Golden Bengal.
Did Tom Grant leave his hairline in the dressing room?
What's that bit of bum fluff on Liam Rush's chin?
Chris Kendall still gets in his mum and dad's bed when he has a bad dream. Pass it on.
What's bigger, Jack Smith's nose or his ego?
Tom Grant walks around chewing his gum like he's Alex Ferguson back in the 90s.
Under a photo of my newborn baby welcoming him to the world, it reads, "Hope it dies."
You were the biggest sucking. I'm gonna run your mum off the road, you gay. Worst ref in the world, you gay. You and should suck each other's. Die Marcus die, die Marcus die, die Marcus die. The message I received wasn't the day of the game, it was the day after a game. It was Huddersfield versus Leeds, regular season game. There was some controversy, allegedly, due to decisions made in it. I went on my message request on Instagram, and I don't normally do it, don't know what came over me. It was one of those moments where you just decide to do it because one's popped up, and the messages read as they read. It was difficult at the time to process it. A lot of it was anger. There was a lot of, I'm just going to post this on Twitter without thinking about it. And just post it and let it take off, have legs. Don't speak to anybody in particular about it. Don't inform anybody. And it was more anger at the time. Take a step back. I spoke to my family about it, and they suggested telling the organisation before I post anything, because it would put, at that moment, the head of referees, Dave Elliott, in a precarious position, me just going on Twitter and posting messages that I've received. It would put the organisation under somewhat of a spotlight. And actually, it was my family that were against it as such, because they didn't want me adding extra pressure onto myself, putting myself into the spotlight and being known as the gay referee and getting things because of my sexuality rather than my ability. That's difficult. That coming out will have given some people the belief that I only get certain games because of who I am, not my ability. And that will always happen now until I decide to hang the whistle up. So having slept on the messages and spoken to people like Dave Elliott, Robert Hicks, media team in the RFL, we decided to do a combined approach on how we were going to post these messages out. It was done in the best way because it was collaborative. We were all sort of singing off the same hymn sheet so that the messaging was clear, that that sort of abuse clearly crosses a line and isn't expected or accepted in rugby league. So the person that sent me the message, I would have loved to have met and see whether they were brazen enough to say it to my face. The messages that people receive, and they do have a knock-on impact on the individuals. I know that as a group of referees and the full-time group, they will try and get round you, they'll try and support you, they'll try and put their arms around you as such, but at times you're putting on this bravado that everything's okay, it's water off a duck's back. You don't realise the effect it has until you actually stop and you allow it to all sink in. It was only once the season had finished, it did hit me. I didn't accept that until the season had finished, and people will have forgotten about it, but it had a probably 3-4 month effect on me that I didn't want to accept. The obvious advice for people receiving social media abuse is to not read it, ignore it, pretend it's not there. However, curiosity will always pique your interest when a message pops up in your requests or you get a new tweet that gets sent your way. You're always going to be curious to look. The advice that I would give would be if it's so over the line that it is criminal, you need to say something and you need to point it out, because the only way that these people will be not removed from social media, because that'll never happen, it's a cesspit at times. The only way that these people will be removed from the sport and these opinions will be eradicated is by people constantly calling it out and making people realise that that behaviour isn't acceptable. I know within rugby league that the opinions that were sent to me is a minority, whether that's hate, whether that's homophobic, whether it's racist, whether it's anything that can be discriminatory. I know that that's a minority, and the one thing that made me happy after being able to take it all in and realise that there was such an outpouring of support, so from ex-players both in the male and female game, from club coaches, CEOs, outpouring support from other sports. Rugby union got involved, some football referees got involved. That was showing that the rugby league community and the sporting community is completely against this type of abuse. And hopefully, in the future, it can become a thing of the past.
If you wouldn't say it to your colleagues, why say it to mine?